Well, hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the PUBG Mobile Ivy League Female International Professional Women's Tournament entering Phase 2. And we've got 5 rounds of action, mayhem, and strategy coming your way today. But first and foremost, for those of you who aren't quite acquainted as to who I am, of course, RedEyes, your ever-lovable and adorably cuddly caster, bringing you that daily dosage of butt-kickery, tomfoolery, and all-around shenaniganism. And we do have a absolute stacked lobby, ladies and gentlemen. I believe this is... Actually, I do believe this might be the accurate one. Let me double check. Yep, it is. So, we have Silently, Veteran Zoo, XNINE Esports, GALACTICS, SOFOKE, Queen Esports, Elevate, Extreme Slayer, Influence Rage, Gucci, LUNOX, and Sorority. So I'm expecting nothing but action right off the bat. And already, you know, we are kicking things off with the very first map ever introduced to the game. I am, of course, speaking of Erangel. Now, what do we need to say about a map like Erangel? Well, essentially, it's going to be the largest map that we have in one of the largest maps that we have in the game. It's an 8x8, and the first map ever introduced to PUBG Mobile. I do see that, ladies and gentlemen. You're going to have to forgive me. Had to reset up some scenes. I'll get that fixed for next round. But it's a good middle ground between the extreme maps like Miramar and Sanhok, because it allows for the distance as well as the CQC altercations. A little bit of the best of both worlds, so to speak. But by far, it is the map that our participants should absolutely be most acquainted with. So, without wasting too much time here, let's go ahead and get into the thick of it. That was the button I was looking for. All right. Now, as you can see, it is not the most ideal flight path for the participants, definitely favoring a lot of water here. But as we know to be the case of PUBG Mobile, as the match progresses, our participants will be left with smaller and smaller amounts of surface area and real estate, so they're going to have to be duking it out eventually. But already we can see some potential action on the board, and it looks to be between members of GALACTICS Esports and their opponents just off to their east, and I believe Gucci Esports. So we're going to get a little bit of both perspectives here with the alt cam. And of course, now that I do that, the alt cam says no. Let me fix that. Sorry about that, ladies and gentlemen. All the technical hiccups, of course, love to happen right before match time. But actually, we might have another potential altercation brewing off to the very eastern quadrants here. Just south of Milta Power. It looks to be between members of Silently and their opposition in Elevate. And who is it from Silently that is duking it out? None other than Galavaya. Galavaya getting out of the heat of the situation and dipping on out to a position of safety, maybe falling back to the teammates, and you can't really blame her for it. Now, ladies and gentlemen, as I did have to have a restart, I'm not sure if my macros are going to be set up correctly. Oh, but they are. Nice. They have not changed, and I love to see that. So, no more hiccups other than getting that alt cam fixed. For now, I do think we are at a bit of a standstill, which is to be expected on larger maps. And ladies and gentlemen, larger maps are, of course, going to be a good portion of today. Matter of fact, 80% of the matches today will be large maps. So you can expect moments of downtime, pockets of silence, bits of in-between time. But as to be said with my natural spiel here, anyone who's ever seen me cast has heard me say it, but a more passive early game always directly translates to a more action-packed and climactic mid or end game, so it's gonna be worth the trade. We just might have a little bit of stagnant time, and especially with the reduction in participating teams. Ladies and gentlemen, it looks like there's only 12 participating teams today that were able to make it to this stage, so yes, fewer teams, large map, it is to be expected. But I'm always excited for that action-packed in-game. And I want to know in chat, who is everyone rooting for? All right. We are getting things set up. Let me get the Twitch and the YouTube open. Never had, I think the last time I had a computer crash was probably about 1.5 years ago, or maybe a little over a year ago, I'm not sure which, but it is rare. However, the last time was also before a casting gig. There are some consistencies. The only thing you can predict is unpredictability. And speaking of which, Galavaya being a little bit unpredictable and sneaking closer towards the enemy there, probably for some means of scouting. Not really sure what happened with that alt cam, but giving me some grief to say the least. Alright, not really a lot happening on the playing field. A little bit of congestion in the southeast, but potentially maybe some future altercations towards the gatekeep area, right on the border ridge of zone. Where am I speaking of? Oops. Oh boy. Sorry about that, ladies and gentlemen. My apologies. Luckily, you didn't actually miss a single thing. But regardless, apologies for that. But we might get a little bit of congestion here around the southeast border of the zone, particularly between teams like Galactics and Gucci, as well as Silently could come in from the side for a potential third party. I think the more realistic scenario is to see Silently pulling a northbound flank rotation around the altercation, as this is just day one of phase 2. However, we still have some Silently members silently creeping off towards the enemy still. Yep, that's Elisa taking some shots here as they pass members of Elevate BG. Not really much connecting damage put outwards towards Elevate. However, a little bit of retaliatory damage taken in return, but nothing that a few bandages won't help. Okay. So, with that being said, not a lot happening on the board at the moment. We've lost one member at the very beginning of the match, and that was it. So, a little bit of stagnancy to be expected. A little closer proximity here between members of Silently and Gucci, though. I'm going to switch on over once more just to have a look from Elisa's perspective here as she drives to reunite with her teammates alongside Anissa. We got Anissa and Lisa. Alright, I think I'm gonna have to actually recreate this whole source. I'm sorry about that camera right there. Enjoy that. Yeah. That didn't work either way, I guess. Sorry about that, ladies and gentlemen. I'm not really sure what's happening here right now. It must be this adapter. But regardless, it'll be okay. I'll just focus on the main screen here. We haven't missed a lick of action. Just a little bit of downtime to be expected. Yeah, I don't usually get a lot of opportunities for this much downtime to actually work on fixing the tech issues, but it doesn't look like I will this time either, as Polly of XNINE Esports finds herself in a bit of a predicament, just surrounded by a swarm of Silently members. And yes, the bullets have been sent outward, minimal damage taken by Polly so far, but it does look like a pursuit is underway here. Let's catch an aerial view just to be sure we're not missing it. Yeah, there we go. And here we have it. Galavaya in hot pursuit, but with no passenger member on the back of the buggy to actually fire outwards. And she has fallen right into the trap. Fallen back to a position of safety. We saw our XNINE Esports members retreating back, and just like that, Galavaya took the bait and sent right back to lobby. That'll be the first takedown that we catch eyes on so far today, but it looks like we might have a little love triangle forming towards the center of zone between members of Gucci, LUNOX Esports, and the northbound threat in Extreme Slayer. All right, well, just a little bit of shots being put probably outwards between members of Extreme Slayers and UX, but whether or not LUNOX... Oh, well, I take this back. With a little bit of this high ground here that we're seeing, Martz actually might have an interesting position to keep some pressure on LUNOX. However, this kind of begs the question. I love to bring this up quite a lot. Ooh, we're about to find out right now either way. Victoria of LUNOX taken down with a beautiful sniper shot. Now here is a perfect illustration of my point, however, because what is going to happen here? Is this going to amount to any pushes or any actual thirst? I doubt it. And this comes down to a little bit of a trade-off here. This high ground Overwatch geographical advantage versus a low ground with 4 walls of compound cover. So essentially, if LUNOX were to fire upwards, you know what? We're going to get out the highlighter for it. So essentially, if LUNOX were to fire outwards up on to members of Extreme Slayers, the odds of them actually being able to acquire the thirst from these positions are pretty slim. Just say if Martz or IDG Jita, we'll say Jita, either of them are knocked, they're more than likely going to be able to prone crawl to a little bit of geographical safety behind these boulders and flip the coin. Say Martz or Jita gets a knock on any LUNOX members, as we just saw happen with Victoria. What are the odds of them actually being able to acquire a thirst? See, the reason I raise this question, say Tokyo or Vex is knocked there. As soon as she's knocked, she's down lying on the ground in the prone zone and very likely out of that scope range through the window. So realistically, if you're not going to push immediately after acquiring the knock, what is the purpose of this altercation? Realistically, you're utilizing and depleting your ammo, their ammo, each other's armor, and let's say you're making it so the next time they bleed out faster. But that, at this stage, is that worth taking on this altercation? I would say in this case, probably not, pardon me, but that varies on a case-by-case basis. And of course, I am no tier 1 professional player. I'm just the caster commentator with that 2020 spectator's vision. The audio of your voice sounds strange? Uh-oh. Let me actually turn on my stuff here so I can hear what you guys are hearing. Check, check. Oh, wow. That is awfully loud. I'm going to turn it down considerably. All right. My apologies, ladies and gentlemen. It should be a lot better now. Okay. So, anything actually happening? Not yet. Just a little bit of congestion towards the center of zone between members that Elevate and their opposition in Galactics. So, yeah, a little bit of stagnancy time here. Okay, well, yeah, this is kind of the nature of the later stage of a lot of events. You know, I do think that something can be said when it does seem to be a trend. You know, if teams don't fare as well as they would absolutely hope, what is going to happen in the later stages of the events? Well, in this case, you see some teams may not have had the sportsmanship in mind, but that's, you know, we're 6 years into the PUBG Mobile esports scene, so you would love to see a lot more participation for the sake of sportsmanship, you can say. But Look at this little standoff here we have between Galactics and Elevate here. Multiple compounds and angles on lines of sight on the opposition, but really, aside from maybe a potential line of sight on a Muir, it doesn't really seem like anyone is going to be directly approachable here, unless, for instance, maybe Tokyo gives a peek through the window. But realistically, yeah, aside from Azure on the rooftop, there really isn't a lot of vulnerability between these two spaces. However, I do believe, yep, we did just see something. Looks like Scar trying to retreat a little bit further off, or maybe perhaps do some scouting. Not really sure. Just a lot of stagnancy time here. Oh, but a little something to spice it up and make it more interesting. We've got a care package dropping on down. Now, this is just bait. Who's going to be the one to actually go for that care package? Whoever does is making quite a risk. And speaking of risk, we have a little third-party potential here for members of Silently. As you can see, Lanisa coming up, getting a little closer, and Lisa driving even closer than that, driving directly towards the care package, right by the opposition, and just swallowing damage to her vehicle. Luckily, well, I was going to say luckily, Lisa herself hasn't taken much damage. As I say it, the caster curse puts her right down to 50% health, and they are definitely rethinking this push to the crate. And the love triangle continues. Elsewhere on the map, not a lot happening yet. Well, those shots being put out from Team 9, Elevate. Probably, yes, it's going to be inwards towards members of Extreme Slayers. We see Jita and the remainder of her teammates in a 2-1-1-1, pulling a vehicle rotation, utilizing the high ground of the mountaintop. Faith trying to catch a line of sight on members of Galactics as well, not really focusing on any one team in particular, just shooting the bullets out wherever the enemies come by. And meanwhile, there is another altercation brewing between members of XNINE and the opposition in Queens. We got Pia69 holding down the first story with that UMP CQC Annihilator in hand, just awaiting the inevitable push downstairs. However, Extreme Slayers, members of, I guess it's Jita, getting a takedown on the low ground holders in Galactics. We have 2 altercations on the board right now. Hopefully, in time for match 2, we will be able to get this alt cam fixed up and ready to go again. But for now, it looks like I'm going to have to fiddle. And a little bit of the waiting game here for Kat of Queens Esports. But even as we sit, you can see members of LUNOX driving pretty close by. And yes, they have posted on up for the warehouse and a little bit of boulder cover. We have 3 teams here just outside of the Pachinki area. This is going to be all-out bloodbath warfare. The patience that these teams are exerting. Well, Liz is down just like that. For the caster curse is all too real. And Johanna, with the position inside the vehicle, getting a knock, but being taken down and leaves it all in the hands of Pia. But Pia is down. The Queen has spoken, and you are out of there. Queens bring themselves up a little bit here. Let's see, now they are sitting comfortably at 4 EMs. And still 3 members up, but they are thrown out of the frying pan into the fire because they immediately now have to deal with members of LUNOX Esports. It looks like Vexana has taken a little bit of damage, being brought down to just above half health, but meanwhile, the remainder of LUNOX pushing in aggressively. We see Cashew shooting anticipatory shots outwards, getting a lot of damage on the warehouse holder, but there are still 2 enemy members of LUNOX on the first story. Cashew preparing a little smoke utility, trying to provide herself and Abyss what little bits of cover they can, but the second they get the revive, the nade crashes down, Hellfire hits, and they are brought right back to the prone zone. Cashew trying to desperately stick a very risky revive. Will it amount to anything? It's all dependent upon the hesitation of LUNOX Esports. If they do allow for this revive, I gotta say it might be an error in that decision making. However, again, Nia taken down and Abyss is down as well. It's leaving it all in the hands of Cashew. Oh my goodness, these nades are absolutely insane. Cashew trying desperately to secure a revive on her fallen teammate Nia, but here comes the inevitable push, and down goes the Queen. The Queen has fallen. Oh my goodness, and now, no time to waste. Remember what I said at the beginning of the match? A more passive early game is going to mean a more action-packed in-game, and here we see multiple lines of congestion as out in the distance on the border edge, just outside of zone, Elevate, facing off against Gucci. We got Faith shooting outwards with that Tommy gun, doing significant damage to Avocado. The Avocado has got run and sent back to lobby. Faith now swallowing a little bit of that dead zone, and oh, Peach able to finish off the rest of it, leaving it in the hands of Matcha and Azure. Boy, Matcha desperately trying to secure that first aid before the dead zone does what the dead zone does. And anyone who's seen me commentate knows what I'm about to say, but I don't care who you are, what pro level you're at, if you're in tier 1 or in the community stage, nobody has a higher KD than that blue zone, and we know it. All right, Silently has been living up to their name, being pretty silent so far this match. No elims to their name. And it is getting to be crunch time, but as the zone has shrunk, the congestion factor is here. And here we see it, multiple altercations unveiling at once, and Azure is just wrecked out of the equation. Nades on nades on nades, and no time to waste, as Galactics are the deli meat in this peanut butter and trouble sandwich in between members of LUNOX Esports and Silently. We got Scar putting those monster nades out, and Vexana is taken out of the equation right there and then. Perfectly cooked and thrown. Mart's trying to be a sneaky grass snake, going prone and trying to use what little bit of utility cover she can. All the while, Dolly taken out by Lenisa? Yes, Lenisa. Alan of Galactics pulling a little flank here around the crescent of this hilltop, just outside of the line of sight, but Lenisa knows the location of Alan regardless, and throwing some anticipatory utilities. Woof. It looks like Alan trying to return those, but quite off on the mark, and boy, oh boy, did Lenisa and Kitty capitalize on that. And we are down just like that to 3 teams spread across 8 people. Ladies and gentlemen, it is gonna be Galactics, Silently, and Extreme Slayers to end round 1. Let's get it.
Let's get ready to rumble!
Oh boy, and to add insult onto the factor, we got that new zone shrinking, favoring members of Extreme Slayers and Scar of Extreme Slayers, but leaving the majority of the playing field still just outside of this new zone. Time is very much a factor here. Scar trying to enshroud himself in what bits of cloud cover he can with that smoke, but it is going to wear off shortly. And this is it where it comes down to practice and controlling your nerves. Being sure to be tactical and in the moment in these in-games. Kitty is down just like that at the hands of Tokyo. Tokyo swallowing a lot of damage in the process, though. Desperately needing to heal, but oh, as she tries to, her teammate is eliminated. And meanwhile, we've got the standoff between Silently's Lenisa using that high ground advantage over members of Galactics, getting some significant damage, and they're taking Ari down to about half health. Scarred, cooking up utility to throw in retaliation. Lenisa's got some of her own, but not quite hitting the mark. Sorry about that. All right, Lenisa cooking it up. And that new care package just putting temptation out there. but to go for it would be almost certain death. Oh, what a monster nade by Scar. She does not miss. Cooking up another one to add on to it. Will it connect? Well, either way, she gets a line on Lenisa, and down she goes. Scar with the Bison just putting out the work, and in the most clutch of times, just like that, ladies and gentlemen. Any way you look at it, that has to be game over. But what a match, what an in-game that was. I think that is probably very likely going to be a bit of the scenarios that we are dealing with today, as we are working with 12 participating teams today on large maps. It's gonna have those passive and in-between moments, just basically inevitable, just due to the sheer size of the maps. But boy, like right when you're about to lose your mind from the waiting, the in-game hits, and it's always worth the wait. Just like that. All right, we got to give it up to Galactics. They're going to take home that gold medal. First place, chicken dinner on the tip of their tongue finish for the first match of day 1 of Phase 2. Silently going to grab second, and Extreme Slayers in third. We will be back in just a few short moments with round 2. We've seen our participants on the very first map ever of Erangel, but now it's time to make a little destruction in the desert as we head over to Miramar. Stick around, we'll be back soon.